Welcome to the Aro Benaiah Show, where we dig into real stories, hands-on entrepreneur, blue-collar perfection, and builders who have turned grit into greatness. My guest today is someone who brings both passion and precision to everything she touches. Gladys Margarita Diaz is a Cuban-American powerhouse in real estate, an architect, a developer, and a visionary who see property not just as a square footage, but a space that heals, inspire, and generate wealth. From transforming distressed home into thriving renters to securing funds from government program to helping people name the kind of space they truly want. She blends emotions and execution and profits with purpose. If you ever thought your hands-on skill could lead you into ownership, innovation, or legacy, Gladys is about to show you otherwise. Once again, good to have you here.
Thank you.
Okay, just the show is about hands-on entrepreneur, those who do work with their hands, who have skills, but doesn't know how to navigate yet. So we just want to dive into some couples of things on how you get started, so that they can actually through your blueprints, get an idea of how they could navigate their own ways. All right. So our first question today is going to be more like, what was life like growing up?
It was not easy because I am Cuban,
Yeah.
and when I was a child, we had to leave the country very fast. My family, I was in the country when the Cuban Revolution happened, and so we saw a lot of scary things. And I remember that there were people in my block that were keeping an eye on my family, and they would get me. I was a little 5-year old, young girl, and they would say, "Oh, what is your father doing? What is your mother doing?" So to take the child as a how do you say, as to snitch on the parents, right?
Yeah.
My father was an electrical engineer, and he worked for the power company. And one of the things that happened was that he knew where the missiles were located that the Russians were installing. So a friend of his said, if you don't leave the country in 48 hours, you're going to be in the firing squad. He was the man who knew too much.
Hmm.
And so my father paid for a visa from a forger, and we went to the airport the next day. My mother and my sisters and I, we had visas. So we went, and the military guy said, "How did you come to the airport, engineer?" My father said, "I drove my car. Would you like to see it?" And he said, "Yes." And my father said, "Would you like to take care of it while I'm away in Miami on vacation for the next 2 weeks?" Because we had tourist visa. So the guy said, "Of course, I will turn on your car. It'll be here when you come back." So he stamped my father's passport, and we got on the plane and we left. And
Wow.
when we came to the United States, we had like nothing. You were not allowed to take out more than one change of clothing, two pairs of shoes, as if you were going on vacation for two
Yeah.
weeks. So my father had a really hard time getting a job because his English wasn't very good. And I went to elementary school and I learned English in a summer, like during the summer. So I became my father's assistant. And this is something that this is a truth of many children of immigrants. If they come from another country and the parents don't know the language, the child becomes an adult because you have to help your father and your mother, right?
Yeah.
And that's kind of the most important thing. So that's what I did. So I became very self-sufficient. My father taught me very soon in my life. He taught me how to write a check, you know, so I could balance my own. He taught me how to balance my checkbook. He wanted me to learn basic survival skills when I was very, very young. And he said, if
Okay.
something happens to me, you know what to do. You take care of the family. So that's kind of the situation. So but the one thing that was the most important thing in our family was education. So we came to the US, we didn't have anything, and my father was taken away by the immigration because they said, this is a false visa. We're going to send you back. And my father said, mm-mm, I know things that you need to know. I know where the missiles are being put in Cuba. So the CIA, the FBI, the NSA, they took him away, and he basically said, this is where they are, here, 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 and here. And then we moved to California. We were adopted by a church, and that's where he tried to get a job, but he couldn't get a job because he was considered a security risk because my grandparents were still in Cuba. And they said they could blackmail you into giving away information. And so my father worked in a box factory. And then I went to school to learn English. So I learned how to speak English. And I became his assistant, like I told you. And he was very adamant that I should be self-sufficient from very young. And one of the things that I learned, and this is for all entrepreneurs, is to always keep learning. So my father said, I have to learn how to speak English. I have to learn what to do in this country. So they go to, I don't remember a day in my life where my mother and my father were not studying something. And I
Wow.
remember when my sisters were 2 years old and I was about 7, and my mother was going to night school. She was teaching during the day. My mother was a teacher. So at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, she took a bus for an hour to go to school at the university and take night classes. My father would put us in the car, drive us to the cafeteria during her break. She had dinner at 7:30 so that my mother could see us because she would not see us because she got out of school at 11 o'clock at night. So my father would drive 45 minutes to the school so that she could play with her children, and then drove us back home, put us to bed with my grandmother, and then drove back to the university to pick her up. And I
Wow.
remember that, and I thought, first of all, I grew up with a father who was very dedicated to helping the women in his family achieve what they could. So a father is very important person to a family. And I think that that is very a key component that you don't realize how important you are as a father until you hear the stories of the children.
Wow.
And
Yeah, yeah. This is really, really fascinating because I guess at this particular age, then a whole lot of young girls from different countries will still be more like just more like catering for the basics without taking much responsibility. Here you were taking a whole lot of responsibility, working with that. That was actually a lot. Okay, well, like I think from this early experience you just shared, how did they actually inform your work ethic and your sense of making money? Because I know it will be very, very quick in owing to the fact that you work with that during this period. How did it transpire? We just want to know. I'm a bit curious now.
how I studied I used to ask my father if I could have a part-time job in a grocery store to buy shoes and purses. You're a girl.
Yeah.
And my father said, mm-mm, your job is to bring home the grades. My job is to pay for your clothes. You go to school, you make good, you study well, and you be great, pick a career and make yourself somebody that you can take care of yourself. You will never be dependent on any man. So I studied architecture
Yeah.
and I worked in offices. Like when I was in school, my father said, okay, now you go work in an office and learn your career, your trade, and work with the people that know about construction and go to the job site. My father he would supervise the installation of the electrical power system
Oh, yeah.
and the lighting, and he would take me with him so I could learn how to work with the crews, you know, the men who climb up on the towers and put the
Yeah.
wires, the electrical wires. He says you have to learn how to work with them. And he would take me to the job with him. And so I learned very early on how he managed his group of men, and they were his. He was very friendly with them and acknowledged how hard they were working and the sacrifices, because it's very electrical workers are. That's a very dangerous career
Yeah.
to be a lineman. You know that.
Yes,
And
yeah.
in a developing, and when we lived in Cuba was a developing country, so he was part of the group that installed the power system through the island. So whenever he was working on a project, it was always about making sure that the workers felt validated and that they were doing a good job and so on. And I think that that's one of the key things that I learned, to study very much and to learn from people that manage others and make others feel how important they are, because without them you
Yeah.
can't do anything. you know an engineer can design the idea, but if the construction guy that pours the concrete, that lays the steel, is not doing the right thing, you don't get a product.
Yeah.
So you have to work as a team. And the world, the physical universe is very challenging. It always gives you a lot of challenges, rain and snow and heat. You're working and it starts raining all of a sudden outside, you know
Wow.
those those things are very important. So I learned
Wow.
that from him.
Okay.
and and my mom, she was very you have to learn to be bilingual. You have to be totally bilingual in both languages, English and Spanish, because you have to work in this culture and you have to be the bridge to your culture. So that is a very important takeaway from being an immigrant. You are the bridge to your culture. You're an ambassador wherever you go. Because if I'm in a room and there's 300 people and I'm the only Latina, guess what? I am the example that they look at. And how I behave and how I react, I have to be an ambassador of my people. That's how I saw it. That's what my mother always said.
Wow. I think what intrigued me most, a whole lot of young adults didn't get to learn these things. They get to learn it later in life, or some of them through books. But you look at the load of experience from dad, from mom. Uh, it will be as though you don't even know what you are doing yet, but you already know those things experientially. So, at what age when you actually left Cuba, and when you start working,
I
at what age was it?
was 5 when I left Cuba,
Woo.
and I was 17 when I started working in an architecture office.
That means from the story here, it simply means apart from studying architect, which is more of hands-on work other than the reading, and you have to see what you are doing on site to be able to kind of make correct judgments on what things is being done. A whole lot of persons learn a whole lot of stuff in school, but when they get out of school, they didn't get into the industry. Is to have hands-on experience. Who actually shaping your mind towards getting the experience? Was it dad, or from what you have already seen why you were with dad all along?
My dad, and then all the friends that I made in the office where I worked. Because the office where I worked were a lot of, remember, I'm 17 years old and there's an office full of men. that are in their 40s. So you can imagine I was the office little girl, you know, and they would share with me their experience in engineering, especially. I had my boss would say, I want you to go to the job site. I want you to learn how it is that we work so that you can supervise the construction. And even at that age, they would take me with them to the projects,
Wow.
or they would take me with in a meeting. They would bring me along and say, you need to listen and see what is what. And I think I got the viewpoint of working in the field from them because they were very experienced architects from Cuba. They were like in their 40s and 50s. They were not 22 years
Yeah.
old. So I was the baby of the office, and they would say, you need to learn how to build because you can draw, anything can be done with this. You can do anything with this pen. But taking it from this to
Yeah.
this is, you have to know what you're doing. And they
Wow.
were very adamant. So I was lucky that I got to work very young in big offices with people that were very experienced and could teach me a lot about how to do a project, you know, how to design, how to work with the contractor, how to work with the engineers, etc. So I was
Wow.
lucky.
Yeah, that was super amazing because I'm just imagining you being the little girl amongst them. You have advice from every corner because being that you're the little girl in the what is I think a lot of that will help your confidence level because I'm just wondering, me in this particular field where is more men dominated compared to girls. So you being around will just be more of every corner. So you are going to hear a lot of advice and a whole lot of how to project your career and everything. That was super amazing.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay,
they did.
wow, that was amazing. So how did I go into real estate? The fact that how did your journey into real estate
Well,
get started?
I think that in Cuba, and this is something that I learned from these guys that I worked with, the architect was the developer, the person who
Ooh.
came up with the idea and then got the bank to give them money and they would build the house or the building. And so the role of the architect in other countries is more powerful and more involved in the development and the creation of a project. So I went to night school to learn finance, you know, because it's
Ooh.
not taught in design school. And I said I want to learn how to get the money to build my own projects. And that's how I did that. To learn. You always have to study and find people that you can learn from, you know, that will help you to understand how to put things together so that you can flourish and prosper and be happy and
Wow.
enjoy what you do.
Yeah, this is super amazing. So during the course
Yeah.
of learning about finance, what are those outstanding things you learned? What was your change of mindset or your education during that period of finance? Did a whole lot in your building, in your career?
I think the most important thing is that don't be afraid. Because remember that a person who is a designer or a laborer, and that, you know, I work with my hands. I
Yeah,
design with my hands. The creative person that works with their hands is often not respected because
yeah,
they don't know finance, you know, right?
yes, Lord.
So the idea is to learn so that you can be the master of your own destiny and take classes and read books that are going to teach you how to run your business, how you need to be. And now there's so many trainings and so many free knowledge source resources that are out there, and you have to be willing to take the time to study because you can learn it. And then
Yeah.
find a good accounting person who can teach you how to manage the money so you don't pay too much taxes. It's very important.
Yeah.
And I had an accountant who sat with me, and she was very kind, and she worked with me. This is the classification, blah, 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 blah. She walked me through the whole system. And those are the kind of things that you need to know. You
Yeah.
need to work with a good somebody who can advise you and who won't steal your money, who won't be expensive. It doesn't take a lot, but learn
Well,
how to do it yourself so no one can take advantage of
yeah,
you.
take advantage of you. All right, that was amazing. And also more like because I see here from architecture into developing, from there back into finance, a whole lot of other stuff. I'm curious to ask, when you're actually more like diving from one of these things to another, what actually spoil your confidence in those unfamiliar territory? Because it's sometimes I wonder that when you just dive into some of them, like it's demanding. Really, for someone who's actually working with his hands, sometimes they really want to learn, they really want to go into some certain things to actually develop them, but some of them lack the confidence to go all in. Maybe they don't have the body of knowledge. But what actually changed for you that just inspire you to do that?
I think my parents always pushed me, and I think I grew up thinking that I could do anything. My father said, "You don't fly because you don't have wings, but you know, if you want to, you can fly." And if your family and there's always someone, even if you don't have a big family or your parents are not there for you, there's always someone who believes in you. It could be your teacher, it could be your classmate, and I had bosses, like I told you, I worked in an office and they believed in me and they said, "You're a very smart girl. You can do this. You can get, knowledge that could be better than anybody else." And I think that people tend to think less of themselves. People invalidate themselves all the time, and you have to stop it because that doesn't lead to a happy life. You have to say, "I am capable and I know what to do because look at what I can make. I'm able to make that. I made that." Because if you work with your hands, you've made something, you know how to do it. So then there are basics that you have to learn and acknowledge yourself for your capability. People don't like to do that. They don't acknowledge
Yeah.
themselves, right?
Yeah. Oh, wow, this is so profound. I think from our audience, their most takeaway should be, I think I just note down that this quote that you don't fly if you don't got wings. So 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 I think for those who doesn't have someone in their space, they should actually probably write that as a quote in their room and get to look at it every now and then just to spot their own that there's still a possibility in there, but you just have to get wind with knowledge, with a whole lot of persons you have to follow so that they can boost your confidence. Because sometimes self doubt can actually more like destroy a whole lot of things. And also, I actually want to find out for those of my some of them who are not still yet convinced, how were you able to navigate those period of doubts when you were transitioning from one career to the other? Were they period of doubt? Were they period of and
I
were you
was
able to
I
navigate
was
it?
very scared. And I was the only woman in the room or the only Latina in the company. And I think there's always someone who believes in you. That find a friend in the environment that you're in who says, "No, little girl, you can do this. You can
Hmm.
do this." And it could be anybody. It could be another friend of yours from your work. It doesn't have to be an older person. It doesn't have to be your teacher. It can be just someone that believes in you.
Hmm.
And there's always someone that believes in you. Trust me.
Yes, there is. Wow, this is. I think this just helped me a lot because I just listening to this just more like bring back some memory lanes. and some things I get to do, I just remember that it was actually friends that pushed me into it, or else I wouldn't have even get into the cycle or into this competition. And just looking back, I'm like, wow, thank God I got friends. I think this will make me take them serious now. And even when I'm doubts and confused, probably reach out to them more often so that I can just talk and those self-doubt can actually more like wear away. Thank you so much. Okay, I want to ask again. Um, um, you talk often of blending the hard data with soft emotional side of real estate. How did trade people and builders use mindset in creating renovating space? Yeah, how do they?
How, how can they blend?
Yeah, blend with using of data and soft skill. How can they actually use it to create a space for their clients and those who they work with?
I think that they have to speak to their inner creative person. I think that there is an artist in every single person, and anybody could be a genius. A friend of mine has a program called Genius Inc., and he
Hmm.
outlines the 48 qualities of a genius, the 24 qualities of a genius. And you can work towards that. You can be that way. You know, these qualities are out there. And so you can think about what are the things that I can do and how am I every person inside of them is a creative person. And
Yeah,
that is what you can manifest in your projects. You can use your innovation, your ideas, you know. Think about the tradition of craftsmanship of buildings. Okay?
yeah,
The there are many buildings, and I'm going to give an example of the buildings in southern Spain. The Muslim and the African, you know, the Muslims took over Spain for 700 years. You remember that?
yeah,
It was a Muslim country, and the design of the buildings that were built in the year 1000, the year 1200, are crafted so beautifully, and the bricks are formed very beautifully. The sculptures of the faces are so beautiful, and that was done by craftsmen, and they were artists in themselves, but they were laborers working in the bricks, right? And the
yeah,
concrete. But they put their spirit and their creativity into the building. And if you look at all these old historic buildings that I'm sure you have them where you live, old
yeah,
buildings that were built
yeah.
many
Old
years
buildings,
ago,
yes.
you can see the
Yeah,
craftsmanship. And that is a lost art. And that is what people who work with their hands, they have that unique skill that not everybody can do.
yeah. Wow, that is profound. I think you just made it known now because I think sometimes some trade persons overlook what they could do. I think you just saying this just strike a point that uh every trade person so actually more like get more like, let's say in their industries they should get someone they look at as a figure, let's say in the past histories, that did outstanding things so that through their blueprints they could actually more like tap into their genius and actually create something spectacular because it's there are a whole lot of noise out there that it can actually more like wear away your creativities and everything. So having more like those figures or what they did during their time can influence your perception towards what you could do in this contemporary age. That was really profound. Yeah, thank
Yes.
you. Yeah, thank you. So more like, how did you actually change? Because I think when I was reading your bio, it struck me that you were able to kind of change some distressing property into renters. And how were you able to work between those property, those distressed property, and you be able to kind of turn them into rental property? And how were you able to do them?
Well, if you know your way around construction and you understand the building and the building technique, you can see where there has been damage to the property and how you can fix it. And you can make it, you can heal the property. The property that is distressed is basically ill. It has a
Yeah.
fever, it has a cold. So if you understand how things are built, you can heal the property and make it really functional again. And that is something that you just have to be willing to do. It's not easy because
Yeah.
I walked into a house. I'll tell you what happened. The people who were there had left the house, but they left all the water turned on. So
Ooh.
when you open the door, the water on top of you.
Ooh.
And then there was a line all along the wall of mold from the water having
Yeah.
been there for so many months. And so we had to figure out how to make it so that you could fix that. And we had to cut all of the wall all around and put it back because it was full of mold. And that's very unhealthy, you
Yeah.
know? So you have to know how to deal with property, how to deal with the physical universe. You have to be the craftsman, the person who works with their hands and deals with the physical, the building materials, has a communication with the materials. That is something that they have to acknowledge in themselves, that that is a skill that not everybody has. And not everyone has had the opportunity to work with materials. Do you understand?
Yes.
There are many people who never leave the office. They design, but they never go to the site and they don't know how the material is going to behave. That is the special skill, how a
Wow.
material behaves.
Wow. That was this is very, very profound. I think you just blend you being able to interact with the material you use, and yeah, like I'm into paint. I actually paint houses, and I do a whole lot of related to that. I just remember when I first started, I have no clues of what I was doing. I was just doing it on and off. But these days, every space I enter to paint, to repaint, I actually have this perception of what it can be. Sometimes when I'm describing it to the client and what could be done, they didn't get to see. When I'm done, they will be like, "This is so amazing." Sometimes when they say it's so amazing, sometimes it looked like surprise to me, being that it was just normal to me. So you just saying that you being able to kind of being that you're being the material for long, you can interact with it. I know the possibility that is possible. It's actually very profound. And also during your course of your career with real estate, with finance, and with architecture, what was your biggest challenge, and how were you able to overcome them?
My biggest challenge, unfortunately, was because I felt like I wasn't being taken seriously when I applied for a job. And you had to be, remember, I'm a woman and I'm Latina. So I have to be smarter. I have to be better. I have to be more hardworking, all of that. Unfortunately, that's the way it was in my time. It's a little better now for young
Yeah,
women. So that's the good news. That's the happy news that it's easier for young people now, I think that because the world is much more
yeah,
diverse, there's much more diversity, and then there's more opportunity. But I think that that was the biggest thing. And that's always for young people to be taken, to be respected,
wow,
to be respected. And
well,
so I always respected myself. So I demanded that people respect me. I know things that you will never know, you know?
yeah. Oh, this is really interesting because I actually studied engineering. I studied electrical electronic engineering in school, and we have a class of I think almost 200, and the ladies we have in our class, they were not up to 10. I think just where you make reference of it, all of those engineering fields, they we lack a whole lot of ladies who actually get into it. uh, which simply means that there's a whole lot of probability that they are not going to take them serious, compared to their male counterparts, which is difficult to actually navigate anyway. But the fact that you just make reference of you respecting yourself and demanding respect from them, I think that would be a key insight for our female listener who are actually currently into that field towards navigating and becoming more in that field. Thank you so much. Okay. And also, I discovered that during your course of doing a whole lot of stuff, you make use of technology a whole lot to in a whole lot of aspects to bring yourself out there and did a whole lot of outstanding stuff. How do you think this technology, AIs, and the other stuff? How what is your perception towards it in terms of those who work with they are not that confident enough to make do of it? How did they actually get started in yours so that they can actually get to benefit from it?
Well, the first thing is to learn how to use it because it is the future. The AI can help you measure. There are tools like here's my phone. Okay, my phone.
Yeah,
I can measure a space. It can give me an accurate dimension plan. The photography can give you information. There are so many things that can help the person who works with their hands
yeah,
if they use the tools. Think of it as a tool, just like you have a hammer and just
yeah,
like you have a wrench. It is a tool to help you do your job faster, to do your estimating, like when you're calculating how much how much material you need. That is very important. So I think that using technology for your own to develop your business, and there are courses that you can take online that are free. That now there's so much you can do online that will teach you how to do this, how to do that. It takes a while. The one
yeah,
thing you have to remember is don't give up. Don't give up because it's not easy to go from physical universe stuff to
yeah.
technology stuff. But at the end of the day, it can help you.
Wow, just speak volume to what you said earlier on that we should be a life learner, learning all the tools, seeing them as a tool, not just as something like a threat to our trade or to our hands-on skill, which is very profound. Because if we leave it out, at the end of the day, we might get our impact might get wear out, and they wouldn't get to know if we're here or not, which is very key. I think during the course of your story, when you make reference on when you were working with your dad and him managing teams and you getting to learn a whole lot of stuff, what was the some of those challenge while working with team, especially those who were into trade business, plumber, electricians, painters, and everything. And so, what were some setback that you actually see with them while you were working with them as a team?
Imagine that you're a Latino man and you're being bossed around by a girl. Not easy. So you have to be very kind and I teach me how you would do this. You have to not have an ego, to be able to let them be important. I said this before. You always have to give them their beingness and acknowledge their knowledge. Like, tell me how you would install this. What do you think is the best way to do this? Let them tell you so that you are the student and they are the teacher.
Yeah,
And
teachers.
then that way they do their best work because they know that you appreciate what they're doing.
Wow. Just a little bit of this understanding can really help really clear any clashes between client and trade persons, because sometimes I have that same difficulties too when I go for site. Sometimes I see trade persons exchanging word with their clients in a hot argument. Sometimes I wonder that if at the end of the day, will the client still reach out to you for more jobs? Because it's usually a ton of more like you having to deal with the client in a very hot argument and you not being calm and try to be understand. Getting your job, was it more of clients referring you from job you did? Was it more of referral, or through the online procedure. The last guest have, I was discussing with him that how do you think that trade persons can actually get couples of job more at this particular period of time? Because most of them still rely on traditional system, which is words of mouth,
Uh-huh.
which sometimes can be very, very demanding if you are just starting out. So I would just want to know from your end, how did you get started? You
Well,
being visible and everything.
I was very lucky because my husband is a real estate broker, so he would
Woo.
sell a house and I fixed it. So I was in the company. But let me tell you what I recommend. This.
Okay.
Use
Oh,
the advertising on Facebook and use all of the social media to promote yourself. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. And I know that it's, like this is what I tell everybody. Hi, I'm so and so, it's okay. It's okay. You can do that. And you can show people your work.
yeah.
Did you see my work? Did you see how I painted this house? My client loves this. Look at the details. Show what you do so people see it. You have the greatest tool in the world. You have social media. You can get your name out there, way beyond the people that you know.
Yeah, this is really fascinating. It's so yes. Yeah, I think you already start making references. I was like, how were you able to get words of mouth from this client to work for? Because I discovered that over time that uh words of mouth sometimes it's easier to actually get more clients from there, and those clients, they are easy to close. More like when you get the work, it's easy to negotiate the deal and get the job started compared to using ad and everything. It take a whole lot of conviction trying to convince them of what you can do and everything. So how were you able to get more of these working with the clients? What are those things that you think trade people can actually shift into the while working with clients to actually secure their best at heart?
I think you need to affiliate to someone that can help you to get referrals. I
Mm,
think that like you affiliate with a real estate company and be there. This is the guy that I use, you know, like that. So
okay,
that you're
okay.
always, because my referrals came from my company, from the real estate brokerage. If my husband sold a house, then I was the first person that he called
Yeah.
to renovate it. And sometimes I would say, no, I don't want to work with that client.
Well, just this is actually profound, which simply means every tradesperson should be looking at the link from one trade to their skill. Let's say the electricians should be looking forward to those who build houses, and even if they should have them in their cycles, or those who renovate spaces, the painter should be looking at those who do some things in the site too, so that at least they can, when they see opportunity, they can actually ship it in and involve them in. Yeah, this is actually profound because I know that with this, things can easily go around rather than waiting for you to be get discovered at any time.
I think referrals, if you affiliate yourself to a sister company that
Yeah,
provides another service and you can enhance their business, then it's a win-win for both of you.
yeah. It's actually a win-win. Yes, because I think there's this friend of mine lately who has actually been getting some couples of job, and I assist him to execute this project. And funny enough, I think the guy has brought about 3 projects now, 3 big projects for us. And I was asking him, how did he get to know this guy? And he was like, he just get to know the guy through someone, and what it demands is just pay him some little funds, and then the guy brought this job. At first he was complaining. I was like, why would you be complaining? This is a big opportunity other than sitting at home without having any jobs. He just got to discover that this is actually a big win compared to sitting and uh, sorry, this alarm is still. Yeah, it's actually a big win, and having to get. I think I've not actually taken it serious before, but getting to hear from you now, I think I will just go on my way out and start looking forward to getting those who are into it, because cheap, because house is expensive, and client can't just trust you with their space without someone putting in words for you, which is very, very key. Thank you so much for that particular glaze. And also more like I discovered during the course of the course of your story, you make reference of a whole lot of learning, shifting of mindset, and a whole lot of stuff, which simply means a trade person should be a life learner in every aspect. Because looking from your dad, from your mom, that you can't fly if you don't have wings. So I don't know. I would like to actually more like suggest some kind of win for my for my guests, for my guests who are, well, those who actually listen to this podcast, so that at the end of the day they could actually more like maybe some couples of books that you read while growing up that are actually shaping your mind, maybe either histories or any book that actually change your mindset towards being confident on the skills you have. I know you make reference of our blue pen that make reference of discovering your genius, and so I don't know. Can you just suggest some couples of those so that they could just latch on
Well,
it and
some of them are websites like Genius Inc. You
okay,
know,
geniusing.
the author is Robert Duggan, Duggan,
Okay,
and I don't know if the book is out, but I think that is a very powerful, information. I think that Problems of Work is a
problems
book
of
that I
work.
got, Problems of Work, and I got it. It's by L. Ron Hubbard. I use
Okay.
that in my business, and it really talks about how the worker is not a cog; he
Hmm.
is the machine. The
Hmm.
worker is not just a piece of the machine; he is the machine, because without him, there is no business. So it's a beautiful take on management and people. And I think that the other thing is you have to learn. A friend of mine wrote a book called Accounting for the Number Phobic.
Hmm.
Accounting for the
Accounting.
Number Phobic. Yes.
Yeah.
And her name is Dawn. Here, I'll give you it's in the Amazon.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. And she is an accountant, and she realized her last name is Fotopoulos,
Okay.
Fotopoulos, and
Okay.
accounting for the number phobic, people who are afraid of numbers.
Afraid of numbers.
So a trade person could be afraid of accounting, so they need to get over that.
Wow.
I
This is this is profound. uh, well, thank you so much for these materials. I think they are very, very key because another aspect why doing this podcast, just the way you are sharing those insights on those books, I'm already start thinking of it, owing to you make reference of histories and how some of those big buildings was being shaped by those who have confidence on their skills and what their place was in the society and how they could actually make significant change. I'm already thinking of maybe I would during this course of episode I might one or two times review some couples of histories that talk more of hands-on businesses, how they were able to change these and those strategic points in histories, so that every trade persons will get to see how they comes in, and the fact that what might look common to them is not common to all, that they could actually trade it and yeah, spoiling their creativities and actually do much and much with it. Yeah, thank you so much for the insights. It's really key. I think for those younger ones who actually want to get into trade on businesses skills, I think my takeout from your stories is just that get yourself around those who actually work with their hands, trade persons. I think just doing that alone, it will actually inform them their perspective about a whole lot of stuff. So I don't know if you have some couples of suggestion, what's the single takeaway or more like your advice for those my trades persons who are listening or those who want to get started, especially ladies too who want to come into the field but still they don't know how to navigate. They are still unsure. They don't know whether there's something they could actually invest their energy in, especially those trade on businesses, plumber, painters, especially ladies coming into in or those who are still into in who still feel they are left out or not that confident, what would be your advice for them?
I think they should go and Google Basics of Organization, which is a free online course. Okay.
Yeah,
And they
basis
have
of
it
organization.
in the, yeah, Basics of Organization. It's in the Scientology.org website.
Okay.
And I think it's free. It's a free course that you can just sign up for. And it teaches you how to organize your work. And you have to understand how to organize yourself in order to be able to produce a product. And
Wow.
because every product that you do has many subproducts. For example, I mix the concrete. I pour the color in the concrete. I blend it. Then I pour it in the mold. Then I put the brick, I stack the bricks, you know? Everything, the valuable final product is a wall, right?
Yeah.
Or something. So as when you're working with your hands, everything you do has a step. It's a step, it's a step, it's a step, and then you finish. You're a painter. You go
Yeah.
get your materials. You calculate how
Yeah.
many square feet there is,
Yeah.
how many gallons you need, the colors, the blends, the colors that are good. Like this wall faces east, this wall faces north. It's better to use this color versus
Yeah.
that color. And it's the heat of the sun or the rain will be affecting it. So
Everything.
you choose the material, then you calculate how much you need, then you get the materials that are going to get you to do your product. These are all subproduct, 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 and there's a line that you follow, a sequence. Just write it down, and you know it in your head because you do it every day.
Yeah.
So then when you
Wow.
do that, then you have an apprentice. You can say, here, this is how I did it. Then you have an
Yeah.
apprentice, and the apprentice can do it the way that you did it, right? That's the
Yeah.
idea of an apprentice.
Yeah, this is actually very key. Thank you so much for the insight. It was really, really, really lovely. And also, I think before the last question, I would like to ask for those youngsters who are still in their thing, who want to just get a clue to hands-on trades. How do you think they can actually get themselves, let's say, apprentice from those who are currently in the field? Because sometimes it can be very, very demanding, maybe owing to uh, maybe they don't have much knowledge to navigate reaching out to those who are trade on businesses, and they don't know how to actually just approach them and actually more like secure some
Listen,
slots for apprentice.
well, sometimes the people that are working, they're afraid of the apprentice because they could be taken over. So you have to be
Yeah.
very strategic. There are schools that teach the skills. Like, I'm going to tell you something. The future is the trades. People don't
Hmm.
realize that because there, if everybody becomes a technology guy, who's going to make the water flow? Who's going to
Woo.
fix the air conditioner? Who's going to put the roof back on? Right? That is the future. And there's a billionaire right now. There's a guy called Grant Cardone, and
Yeah,
he's
Kakado,
putting out
yes.
these. Okay. His big thing is the future is AC, the trades, air conditioning. And you get trained in air conditioning technology. You can have your own business, and it pays very well. So the trades are things of the future because that's what's needed. Think about it.
Wow, this just boosts my confidence. Thank you so much. Okay, how did our listeners, how will they get to know more about you, and for those who actually want to reach out for some couples of deal, maybe you just tell us
Uh,
about yourself and how they could know about more
I
about you.
am I'm on LinkedIn, and you can put it in your chat, Glad Mag
Okay.
Diaz. I'm also you can look for my company online. which is Urbaniza,
Okay.
Urbaniza, and
Okay.
I'm on Facebook. You can look it up, Urbaniza. It's in Facebook
Benita, yeah.
and also Instagram. And you can write to me and say, "Hi, how are you?" You know.
I would do that immediately. Thank you. All right, I have this closing line that I actually have for the closing of this podcast. Thank you so much for the time. I actually enjoyed my time, and not just enjoy it too. I learned a whole lot that after now I'm going to put to work, so that in time to come I can look back and say, yeah, this podcast actually changed. Was the trippy point for me. Okay, thank you so much. Okay, Gladys, thank you for sharing your stories, the pivot, the passion, and the hands-on work and the vision. To those listening, your skills, your stories, and your struggles are not in vain. Whether you are cleaning, painting, right, or building, you have what it takes to create your own and lead. If something, if something in this conversation speaks to you, go check Urbanize, okay, urbanizareality.com. Okay, I'm going to put the link there and grab the free checklist to help you define what kind of space and life that you really want. This is the Aro Benaiah Show, where every hustle has a blueprint. On to the next one. Keep building.
Okay.
Right. Okay.